So after deliberating and planning for the last 3 months, I finally have the opportunity, the most wonderful of privilege of having Charudutt on my podcast. A very warm welcome, Charudutt. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
I'm also trying to pull along the same old answer from all of my episodes.
And
And
I
to all the
and
people, yeah, you were
and yeah,
saying
thanks
something.
a lot. I mean, it's been like almost 3 months that we have been trying to do this. So yeah, look forward to the call, to the meeting.
And and in Charudutt's words, हमारे episode को शनि लग गई है. Hope that's not the case with the kind of views that we plan on getting. And Charudutt, so talking of all the work that you've been undertaking and in the past 6 months, 1 year that you've been
Hmm.
active in the HR space, if I'm not wrong, Charudutt.
Correct. 14 months, yeah.
For the past 14 months, to quote Charudutt in his own language, he's been making a lot of waves, not just on social media, but in actual working spaces as well. He's
I
emerged as
hope
a
so.
leading content creator in the DEI space as a HR professional as well. Not one of his posts go without actually being on the top recommendations of my profile. So
Okay.
Charudutt is making quite a name for himself in the DEI space. So starting off with your career, with your current life, and all the deliverables that you have on your this thing desk, what does your day look like, Charudutt?
So day is very interesting. I mean, I find my work, to be honest, as I said, very interesting. Uh, I joined my organization as a management trainee. And when I joined as a trainee, I had various verticals to look after. So I was also part of Comp and Ben in HR. So Comp and Ben is compensation and benefits, where I was looking after making some policies, some changing the compensation structure of the employees, modifying it rather. Also working on the L&D team, working with them, trying to find out what are the best training modules which we could provide. And then, yeah, more part around 60 to 70% of the time goes on DEI initiatives, wherein we're trying to understand what are the best practices that could be suitable for our organization, making a roadmap for the next 2, 3 years, and then for every month we keep on, following our roadmap and tracking all those things.
What is the benchmark against which you're establishing these frameworks?
So benchmark, usually what we do is the industry. So we operate in an electrical and digital devices area, manufacturing setup. So the best practices in this sector, first we look at that. We try to be the best in our sector, and also sometimes we look at the overall best practices. Sometimes some IT companies are the best practices, sometimes banking companies, sometimes FMCG have some good policies. So we try to incorporate and learn from them.
Are your practices on a macro level audited by second party auditors as well?
Yeah. So all our practices, especially for a DEI, we have been audited by an international organization, and all our practices. So they do it like almost every 2 years. So they come, they check our practices, they give us feedback, and then based on that, we rework on our roadmap for the next 3 years, and then that's how the things happen.
Charudutt, the problem with HR and most of its applications is the fact that you see the labor market, the number of people who are wanting to become corporate employees is heavily concentrated by engineers. And what opinions do engineers have of HR? That these are the people who don't know shit about machines, who don't know shit about how organizations function or how the technical aspects are taken care of. All they know is a little bit of communication, and they put themselves on the seat and decide what the salary is supposed to be of that employee. How do
Mhm.
you guys, as individual HR professionals, plan on emerging out of that image, that imagery of a HR guy?
So what I would say is, yes, that image to a certain extent was very valid. The people in the HR domain or HR professional, they were very the limited the knowledge that they had and the experience that they had. It was very limited to their domain. But now the new age HRs, the new age HR professionals, even I try to do that. We try to understand the business, because now what I understand and what I see and what we are doing is we are more of a strategic role, wherein we're trying to understand what is the business, where is our sales coming from, how are our what are our machines, how can we improve efficiency in every step, right? And how we can improve, how we can impact every step so that our bottom line and top line is positively affected. So I think that way is a lot of change is happening. You'll see a lot of CHROs in the boardroom meetings now. They are the ones who are guiding. So even in our organization, the CEO and MD, he regularly takes inputs, takes feedback from the HR head of our organization. So I think that shift is slowly happening, and I think that is a very important image change that you'll see maybe in the next few years. I think that should happen.
You mentioned that CHROs are being inducted into the board, but there's also
Yeah,
another dramatic transition which has been happening over the past few years. Is that CHROs are also going on to become CEOs as well.
absolutely. Yeah, that's a
That
big
is
thing.
that is one that is one thing that
Hmm.
I've seen on a lot of places. I mean, anybody in their right minds would imagine a CFO becoming a CEO, a
Hmm.
CMO to the worst of extents. Even a
Correct,
CXO
correct.
would do good, but CHRO, that's setting a new standard, a new benchmark altogether. And with the onset of time, maybe 3 or 2 decades down the line, I'll see this man, this name right in front of me, becoming a CEO
Uh-huh.
of some firm occasionally. And
Yeah.
Charu, that's up, building upon our discussion on LEI and DEI, I beg your pardon.
Hmm.
DEI exclusively. So when you're mentioning about the fact that you're trying to come up with strategies, comprehensive strategies of making the workplace far more better, and
Hmm.
you also mentioned that you have a lot of work to do with monthly metrics, monthly KPIs that you guys work on.
Hmm.
So the problem with all of these is that these are qualitative factors. You're getting these are not sales numbers that okay, I'm bringing the sales up. This is something that I'm measuring. But when you're talking of a qualitative factor, like the morale of an employee, how are you planning on tracking it?
So again, you rightly said that it is qualitative. That is again a traditional approach of looking at it, but the newer approach is it is a qualitative and quantitative approach, and it directly or indirectly affects the sales numbers. It directly or indirectly affects the bottom line, the top line. Just to give you an example for all the audiences also. So a lot of people think that DEI is just like a buzzword, and it's just for the moral duty and just taking forward the bandwagon of organization. So when I came for this role and when I was giving the interview, and after my interview, I asked my interviewing manager, I mean, we are doing so much in DEI, we are spending so much of money, and is it actually affecting the business? Is that business case there? And then she gave me a very good example. What she told me is, I'll tell you about our organization specifically. So ours is more like a manufacturing setup, wherein around 10 years back, 95% of the total employees were males. Okay, and now we have done much better, and we are almost at 85-90% of the total employees is female. So what has happened is, post this number increase, right, post the number of women employees increasing in our organization, we have seen that our sales have also increased. Now, when our sales increased, it was very, it was,
Dramatic.
we were not able to understand how has this affected. I mean,
Not able to
increase
account
in
for it.
women, we were not able to
Yeah.
understand how is increase in the number of women affecting the sales of our products. And when we tried to dig in further, we understood that our products, because women is now designing a switch, because a women is now, looking at the aesthetic part
Got it.
of the
Got
switch,
it. Got it.
right? When she
Making the
comes
TAM
to,
wider. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, she's making the time wider because, the switches usually they are very logical, very simple devices. But now, if you see our switch, they have soft touches, they have more colors, they have more aesthetic. And when the women, and nowadays, if you see the interiors of the houses, usually a lot of times it's the women who is deciding it. And because of that, we are able to target a better market, as you said, TAM. So I think that ways it is affecting in a lot of ways. This is just one example, but I think there are many more such examples.
But that is one very significant example when you're telling me that the production team is engaging people from diverse fields, not just women, even people from LGBTQI and that
Of
as
course, yes,
physically
yes,
handicapped people as well.
yes,
For
yes.
example, there is I mean, Switch might be a little dramatic, but if I talk of other appliances, if
Hmm.
they're becoming accessible to physically handicapped people and a physically handicapped person is actually making them,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
that
So
actually answers the question.
So now our switches, they have more touch controls. They are not buttons, right? And this is why, because
Oh,
personally, persons with disabilities, it becomes easier for them. And some
yep,
of
yep,
them are
yep,
not able to see. So having a
yep.
beep or maybe having those colors. So these are the ideas. When we get more people from diverse background, I think new ideas come up. There's a lot of innovation that happens, and in the end, it helps us in our business.
You understand wider pain points as well of
Correct,
the
correct.
entire
Yes,
ecosystem.
yes, yes, yes. We are
Pain
able
points
to
and
reach
then.
out to a bigger audience.
Acha, Charudutt, on that note, one plausible explanation for the drive in sales, for the drive in numbers, can that not be the boosting of consumption demand as well? Or is it, I mean, I, is it reasonable and sensible to sort of put the entire this thing rational only on the inclusion of women workers?
See, now when these things happen, you're not able to completely give out that, okay, this is X to Y ratio हुआ है. But
लीनियर रिग्रेशन
definitely,
नहीं हो पाता.
directly, you do not have like a direct proportion. But definitely, we do understand that there is some relation to inclusion and sales happening. That is definitely there.
So directly proportional to a certain extent.
Yes, yes.
And on the expenditure front, if a company is engaging to becoming accommodative of all the diverse people, so for example, if I talk of a workspace, you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that it's a manufacturing facility which actually employed 95% of males before a certain period of time. But
Correct,
when
correct.
women start engaging in that workspace, you always have to have that level of safety. मतलब क्या बोलते हैं ESG के दायरे से देखें तो सेफ्टी के बुनियाद पर
Mm-hmm.
एक्सपेंडिचर बढ़ जाएगी. And secondly,
Correct.
when I talk of all the protocols as well, even on the front of leaves, maternity leaves, etc., and the kind of allowances that you give will actually take a plunge on the budget and expenditure of Legrand.
Mm-hmm.
So, am I making sense so far?
No, no. So yes, this is one of the major challenges that we face when we say that let's hire more women, because they one thing that they say is that they'll go on leaves more and they'll require maternity breaks. So yes, of course, these things would be there. But if you create that environment where even if she's working from home, we try to give her remote working possibilities, or we try to have some better facilities so that the work is not affected as much. And also, when it comes to cost, I think overall, as I said, when you have a better, diverse, what do you say, a workforce, the retention level goes down. So there also, when the retention is
The
going down,
retention level, the
goes
retention goes
down.
down, the attrition goes down, right?
Sorry, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The attrition goes down, the retention goes up. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So the attrition levels go down, because if she is in the organization, if she feel that the workspace is safe, if it's there are inclusive policies, and not just for women. I think for everyone, even for us, DEI, it's not just about women, PWD, or LGBTQIA. It's also about young generation, like you people like you and me, who have just graduated from MBA colleges, right? Having that kind of, so that is for, in our terms, it's called intergenerational diversity, because we want, again, in our organization, most of the employees were senior, maybe 50, 55 plus, with the age of 50, 55. But we want newer people to come in, younger people to come in, because they'll bring in more ideas. Also, as I said, we are also trying to, again, we were only hiring from tier 1 colleges, tier 2 colleges. Diversity also means getting people from tier 3 colleges, giving them an opportunity, giving opportunity to people from maybe smaller cities, people from diverse background who have taken a career break. So there are so many different aspects to it. And in the end, all the reports and everything, I think, suggest that financially it's a win-win situation for everyone.
I mean, the firms wouldn't mind incurring a marginal expenditure on the short term, but in return, they'll get to reap the benefits of lower attrition in the longer. That is
Correct.
what you're trying to espouse, is it
Yes,
not?
yes. Also, it helps in your brand image. It helps in your employee value proposition. And those are the things. So when you look at Gen Z reports, these are the when you look at you when you ask them and when you do their surveys, what are the top things that looking for in their organization, right? They need hybrid work culture. They need an organization which is very flexible. They need an organization which values diversity. They want, so those are the things, because the number of LGBTQIA is going up, of course, because people are now more open to these
Becoming
ideas.
far more accepting.
far more
Yeah.
accepting, and we are just trying to replicate the society, right? If in society, if there are 50%, if 50% is women, 40% is male, 10% is, for example, let's say LGBTQIA, the same number, if that's there in the organization, I think it will be a more equitable workspace for everyone.
I mean, the moment you mentioned recreating and replicating the society, it almost had my eyebrows go up instantly. Because when you try to recreate the society at large, you're also trying to incorporate the kind of evils that it has been blessed with.
No, no, not in that way.
So,
I think
yeah, yeah,
that was
yeah.
not the idea.
The idea is to sort of, on the basis of the division of population,
Correct.
that is the kind of idea that, okay,
Yes, yes.
if this is how this thing, the labor force is spread across a certain society, let's try
Hmm.
recreating it in our companies.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, Charudutt, building upon that, you mentioned that you were working with the initial few months of your time at Legrand were exclusively constricted to CNP, what do you call
Yeah,
compensation and
yeah.
benefits.
Yes, yes. I was also
Post
part
which
of the CNB. Hmm.
you discovered this yearning for DEI, where you
No,
are
no, I'm
planning
also
on.
currently also working with CNB team.
So,
Yes.
Charudutt, when you mentioned that as a HR profession, you're supposed to take care of the qualitative parts of the workforce and also ensure that the productivity is not compromised with.
Hmm.
What exactly do you do? I mean, you mentioned that KPIs hai, मेरे को देखना है. There are all of these factors that I'm supposed to be working on. But what exactly do you dig deep into and find that problem? Okay, I'm in a workspace, I'm in a company, there's a specific problem, and I'm doing something about it. What do you do?
So what do we do? For DEI specifically, what do we do is first we try to understand the organization from a perspective of a diverse, for someone who is from a PWD, who is a PWD or LGBTQIA or an intergenerational person. We try to understand from their perspective, if the person comes as an employee in our organization, how is their experience going to be? Is it a safe space for them or not? Are the employees, are they sensitive enough to ensure that they make them feel inclusive in the organization, right? And then we also tie up with a lot of external parties, a lot of external vendors who come, do audit, who do, okay, for example, I'll give you one short example of PWDs, right? So what we did is we did an accessibility audit. So there is a proper auditing organization. There are government guidelines which say that for a public building, there should be some instructions,
Accessible washrooms, accessible
accessible
staircase,
washroom should be there, staircase should be there. When they come
the lift
inside
should
the
be accessible,
organization, entrance should be there, your desk should be accessible, you should
panel.
the cafeteria should be accessible. So what we did is we did that accessibility audit from a third part, a vendor. Then we got the report from them, and basis that we are trying to make some infrastructural changes. You need to have emergency exits, you need to have braille inscribed pathways in the workspace, right? So first thing is we try to understand from a point of view, is the workspace inclusive or not for people from diverse backgrounds, and then we try to ensure that we are doing that. So we ensure that we are changing the infrastructure. We work on behavior is a very important part, because we need to constantly sensitize the employees. We need to ensure that they're using the right terms, they're using the right words, they're not using some words which may be harmful for someone. And then we are also at the same time parallelly hiring diverse candidates, because just working on the back end won't be helpful. So hiring those employees, and then once they are in the organization, how do we ensure that they are inclusive? How do they feel that, yeah, things are fine for me? So working on the policies and taking feedback from them and then going ahead.
Identifying pain points and problems with regard to the kind of third party reports that are being generated. Also, going about making those changes where people engage in a not parliamentary but fruitful manner, in a manner that is conducive for productivity to not be hampered, and hiring
Absolutely.
diverse individuals. That is how you put it. All these three activities
Yes,
at large
yes.
are what you do.
Yeah. So again, productivity is the key, right? So we are not saying that if you're hiring someone from PWD, your productivity should go down, or you should, your benchmark
Expect
should go
lesser
down,
outcome.
or you
Hmm.
should expect lesser outcome. No, that is not the case. I mean, as a business, we cannot afford that. Of course, if a person who does not have a disability is able to get 100 units produced in a day, for example, and a person with disability is able to produce, let's say, 95, 97, and if
It's
the
still acceptable.
production head is okay with it, then that's fine. But otherwise, we cannot come down. We cannot say that this person is going to produce 60, 70, 80. No, that's not going to be possible. So how do we ensure that that person is able to produce 90, 95? What are the things that we can do? What are the reasonable accommodations that we can help them with, is what we work upon.
Facilitating is efficiency, in short.
Facilitating is important, yes.
And your hiring is limited to white collar workers, or do you work there and hire blue collar workers as
No,
well?
no, we in all the
Verticals.
areas, yeah, yeah. So blue collar, white collar, contractual, everyone.
So is there scope for diversity in the blue collar workers from any means?
Yeah, we do have. So we have a lot of PWD employees in the factory floor, right? We do have a lot of them who are PWDs. We have made some accommodative changes for them. We also have LGBTQIA employees there.
Acha. I mean, okay, on a more social and a more this thing sensitive front, Charudutt, is if there's another proposition that's been spreading across media like wildfire, is the fact that this LGBTQ is something that is only limited to the wealthy classes of the society. So that is the reason I ask you if there is scope for diversity in this thing, blue collar workers. Do you see people being represented over there as well? When a laborer comes around and tells you that I'm a person from LGBT, do you see that happening on a daily basis? Or is it once in a lifetime kind of this thing happens?
So if you look at our numbers, I think it is equal representation in our plants and corporate offices. I would say for PWDs and for LGBTQIA, it's more when it comes to it's more in our plant works compared to the gender
Offices.
diversity. Yeah. So in gender diversity, when it comes to women, I think corporate offices, there the number is higher, but PWDs, LGBTQI. And again, when you say that LGBTQI is more in the wealthy, societies, I think
Classes. Yeah.
that is again that is
Myth.
something that you need to think about. Why this happens is usually people think that in wealthy societies it's more accepting. They are more accepting, and that is why they have come out of the closet more. But when it
The
comes
freedom of
to,
expression.
they have freedom of expression. There could be a possibility that they're more educated and they could be more accepting in that ways. When it comes to someone from a not so wealthy background, I think that could be a reason why LGBTQI is not very openly spoken about or seen in a marginalized social. Because if you look at the society, right, the most privileged part of the society, the males, the rich people, the Hindu caste in India at least, they have the most privileges, and they are able to express themselves the most, right? They are the most safe section of the society. Wherein when you come to the lowermost, if you look at the triangle, जो सबसे नीचे, the lowermost would be someone who is from SC ST community, probably Dalit, who is not so economically stable, and someone who is of maybe let's say women or an LGBTQI community person. So in the strata, that person will be at the lowest end. So privileges will be less. Ability to express would also be less.
And accommodating into workspaces, that'll also be less.
Uh, I mean, when we look at it, we don't see their caste and we do not look at their economic status. So I don't think that should be a issue. Yeah.
And
Mm.
then, if I had any other questions on DEI strata, was I mean, you gave me a brilliant depiction of a strata. People are being ameliorated and suffering on the lower end, but it's the men, it's the Hindus. I mean, I would disagree with. I'm not having the best of lives, but to a certain extent, I
It
would
does not mean
disagree.
best of life. I'm not saying that you have all
Of course, of course, of course.
the,
I'm
but you
just being
have the
funny. I'm just being
privileges.
funny about it. Just
No,
being
no,
funny
you
about it.
have the privileges in life which are which maybe a person from the lower strata may not be able to enjoy.
So, Charudutt, when you mentioned that, identifying those pain points and, getting that report from a second party auditor and then acting upon them. Any examples of what you've been doing in the past few days or past few months to make better changes and improvements?
See, again, in India or abroad, acceptance of LGBTQIA is not so high so far, right? Um, and we see that even in our reports, maybe 2 years, 3 years back, the acceptance rate was far on the lower side. So what we did is we first, whenever we have to do such initiatives, we start off with the top hierarchy because it said that your culture of the organization is set by the top hierarchy, right? So we try to sensitize them, make them understand why is it important, how is it going to help you in the business, because after all they just look at the business numbers, right? They are not here for society, or they're not here for more moral duties or all of that, right? Of course organization has some moral duties, they have some corporate social responsibility, but when you're going to them, so that is one thing. Second is, of course, we are doing accessibility audits. So basis the reports, we have done a lot of changes. Washrooms have been revamped, the emergency exits, parking lots for them. So on on the plant floor, we try to give a person with disability. We try to accommodate them somewhere which could be closer to the washroom because it's easier for them to travel, come back. So there are a lot of things, and then yes, policies. Policies is something that we have been working a lot upon. So our insurance policy, we have coverage of PWD. So if they want so usually what happens is in your Mediclaim, the PWD equipments, if you want to buy a wheelchair, if you want to buy a stick, it was not covered earlier. So now in our new policy, it is covered. If there's someone wants to change, transform their sex, so that is covered. Hormone therapy, that is covered. Again, when it comes to your insurance, the nomination, it was only like for them, the partner definition was a male and a female, right? Now we have changed that definition to same-sex partners also. So there are a lot of things that we are doing. Maternity break, paternity break is something that we have been working upon. Earlier, the paternity break was lesser. We are trying to improve that. So yeah, working in that area.
And on a daily basis, for example, all of the goals that you've mentioned so far explicitly are the ones that you might be engaging on a weekly basis. For example, a worker being a lot near the washroom. For example, if I ask you what you were doing today and yesterday and for the last week, what were the exact tasks that you were accomplishing?
Um, To be able to tell you, I may not be possible to tell you because there might be some confidential things. But of course, as we said, now we have the yearly roadmap, and for every month we have planned something. There are some activities, there are some international days. So next October is Mental Health Day. So how we can ensure that employee well-being is there. Just getting those diverse candidates is not important. Is not the end of the story. We need to ensure that they're inclusive,
Owning them.
belongingness is there in the organization. So working on that, it's like a continuous process.
Talking of belongingness in an organization, did you have belongingness at JBIMS as well? The kind of college that you had your MBA learned from.
I'm very grateful to JBIMS. I think it was one of the best thing that happened. Of course, there were some difficulties, some challenges, and there were because MBA is very competitive, right? Everyone wants to excel in everything. That competitive
Spirit.
spirit and that thing, it at times it goes to some other level, right? And that could be a negative part, but otherwise, overall, if you look at the experience, yeah, I feel I strongly call myself a JB alum. I mean, there's nothing more. I think that's the best thing that I have done so far. So yeah,
Wow. Wow. So back in your 2 years, the course lasted for 2 years, and you were sharing the classroom with 23 other people.
20 students. Yeah,
Total. So you were sharing it with 19 other people. So when
yeah,
you
yeah.
mentioned that the classroom is so limited to a handful of students, not a handful, but okay, two what do you call 2 feet and 2 hands, 20 students. So
Hmm.
even in those classrooms, the competition level is so significant.
Yeah, yeah. I mean. Even if there are 5 people or 100 people, how does it matter? Everyone wants to, if it's a placement in a college which has 100 students, maybe the company will hire 10 students. But when there are 20 students, the proportion would decrease. So the competition level still remains the same.
I mean, 5 out of 100 is 5%, 2 out of 20 is 10%. So
Maybe
probably on that.
one. अच्छा ठीक है थोड़ा सा हो सकता है but what I'm
uh,
trying to say is yes, the
uh,
competition is always there. Everyone wants to come first, everyone wants to win the competition, uh, be it 10 or 20 or 100 students.
and about the kind of pedagogy that's been equipped, that JBMS's professors are equipped with. How was your experience on that front?
So when it comes to JB's pedagogy professors, I think only 2 or 3 of them are in-house professors. The rest of them, all of them, are industry experts. A lot of them are like the past students of JB, right? They might have passed in 1970s, 1980s, and they have gone through the entire process of how is it to be a student, what happens in your placement process, what does your industry expect out of you. So they have the complete experience, they have the complete knowledge, and then they come and teach us. Uh, and those classes are amazing. I mean, the kind of experiences that they share, the kind of knowledge that they have. Uh, and since they're just 20 students, right, you get to interact a lot with the professor. There's a lot of one-on-one sessions. And even I remember for some classes, the class was again divided in 10-10. So for 10, we had a separate professor. For 10, we had a separate professor. Now, that is a luxury that we had, I feel, because again, sometimes it could be a negative point also because too much attention towards on every student. But overall, I feel it was a good learning experience.
Talking of privileges, I guess students from JVMS will be on the top of the triangle for the strata.
My God. Uh,
And then for the rest of the things as well, you mentioned that the course is far more practical than theoretical. 3 people are professors, and all the rest of the teachers, rest of the professors are industry experts. So
hmm.
you mentioned that they discuss all the current happenings in the industry, whatever is relevant. But what do they really teach you? Are they equipping you with theoretical frameworks, or are they giving you relevant applications to work on as a HR professional?
I would say yes. They start off with the frameworks because frameworks are something that are important. They tell you what is happening in this, but at the same time, they're more focused towards in the exams also, and even when it comes to evaluation, it's more of the application of the frameworks, right? So my batch was 21, 23, right, and that is the exact time when ChatGPT had launched. I think in 22 December or November is the time when ChatGPT launched, and we were the first batch who could use
Write all the
ChatGPT
essays.
to write all the
uh,
answers, write all the
uh,
assignments, and all of that. So again, one of the professor, he was aware of this thing that everyone is going to use ChatGPT. So what he did is he asked us to use ChatGPT and come out with the best assignment. So the assignment was totally as to how well can you use ChatGPT, how can you exploit it to the fullest ways. So I think that way is the experience that the professors are very up to date in the approach that they follow. They are very well aware of what's happening in the industry. Yeah, that's the.
That's one thing which is not very much characteristic of the rest of the institutions, because
Mm,
all of us have mundane frameworks that we limit ourselves to. If I talk of all the
mm,
universities spread across India exclusively,
mm,
that is one thing, one good thing about JB, and about the rest of the things. When I talk of exposure, so how
mhm,
was your exposure taken care of, apart from, of course, the industry experts?
mhm. So, when it comes to exposure, I often tell this to a lot of people that the physical infrastructure at the campus is not the best. Definitely, something that no one would be impressed about. But the intellectual infrastructure is something that's amazing because it is amongst the first MBA colleges in the country, among 4, 5 top oldest colleges. So whenever I go to any organization or any big corporate house, there is 90%, 95% chance that there will be someone from JB in that organization, right? And it becomes very easy to access. You can just drop in a LinkedIn mail, or you can just drop them a message saying that, hi, I want to understand more about your organization. I want to learn more about things what you're doing. Or maybe even if you're looking for an internship, an opportunity work-wise, that really helps, right? That network really helps. And also, in India, sadly, it's a fact that people have that psychological effect that someone who is from a tier two, tier one college would be better than the rest. I mean, I do not
Would be a
agree
hot
to
shot.
that. It would be harsher, and that really helps in a lot of cases. So when I went for a startup funding, uh, just because I was from JB, I got a preference in the entire scheme of things. So
Who would
yeah,
have thought this?
I think that really helps.
As far as the physical infrastructure is concerned, I guess JBIMS also needs a lot of DEI experts.
Yeah, I think they should work on that. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the course also needs to focus a lot on DEI.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you mentioning that you got to have that preference, that level of appointment when you were trying to track to the VC, you were trying to raise funds out of a
yeah,
VC.
yes, yes.
Wow, that's all the more admirable to know. And about your course as well, does it include concepts of finance and marketing to a certain extent?
Yeah, yeah. So the first half of that program, the first year, we have all the basic MBA courses, right? So finance, marketing, sales, operations, supply chain, research, data analytics, all those are there. Of course, we do not go in detail or in depth, but at least touch base, because as I said, right, an HR professional needs to know all these things. If he or she is leading an HR department of the organization, that person needs to understand the supply chain. That person needs to understand who are the sellers,
At
what are
least
the
the basics of
challenges,
it. Hmm.
at least the basics of, because how do I ensure what kind of training is required to that person? How do I ensure that? How do I improve the efficiency there? How do I improve the culture? So everything is required, and I think this course does a good job in helping us understand all those areas.
So Charudutt, you were mentioning that your course has been equipped with concepts from marketing and finance, so that you guys don't have a difficulty, don't have a trouble when you're encountering all of these things at a this thing managerial level. That is what the
Correct.
emphasis is on.
Right, right. Yeah, I
And
mean, hmm.
yep, please, please, please.
I mean, like we said, right, HR would need to understand all these things. So it becomes, so we don't look at HR professionals only from the traditional point of view, that they have this recruitment work, they have this salary, hiring, firing, but they understand the business better. They're able to take that decisions, and they're able to do that business partnering part much better. So that is why they help you, make you understand other aspects of business.
When you mentioned that HR people are not limited to hiring, firing, and taking care of employees, but they also understand the core concepts of business better, is there any one actionable metric that HR guys work on? Of course, you might claim that, okay, we work on augmenting the productivity of employees. But apart from that, is there anything else that you guys actively do, routinely do, until you make it to the board?
Of course, man, there are so many things. So there is a role called HRBP, which
Yep.
is Human Resource Business Partner. I think a lot of organizations have that. And the major actions or key actions in this role is that they have to constantly be in touch with the business leaders, try to understand what are the challenges they are facing, what are the challenges, what are the how can what support they need from HR, and basis that. So what happens is, in an HR structure, there are some roles which are known as HR COEs, which is Center of Excellence. So roles like DEI, roles like Comp and Ben, roles of L&D, talent acquisition, they are more of they have one centralized team working on it. And then, for example, if we have our head offices in Mumbai, there will be a team working on these areas. Then in regional offices, we have HRBPs. So sitting in Mumbai, I developed the DEI plan for my organization, and then the HRBPs in their areas, they execute it. right? And then they keep asking the regional heads or managers or the leadership, what are the challenges that facing? Is there something that is required from the HR team? And then they give us feedback. Okay, these are the things that need to be worked upon. These are the policies that are coming up. If we roll out some policies, what are the feedback that we're getting? So this is something that an HRBP keeps doing, and I think that would answer your question.
HRBPs are people who undertake a lot of business activities at large as well. That's what
Mm-hmm.
you're
I
trying to
mean,
imply.
it's not just the HRBPs, but I'm just giving you an example. A lot of other guys also do. So my KPI, KRA is also that whatever I'm doing, I have to show it to the leadership team, take inputs from them, buy them out. I mean, tell them that, okay, why is DEI important? And then strategically, how can we ensure that things are working fine in the
And
organization?
everybody's working in synergy.
Correct, correct.
And coming back to your time at JBIMS again, so you mentioned that how is the exposure taken care of? I was wondering when the batch is limited to 20 people, and even in that case, the professors are divided among cohorts of 10 each. So what about the exposure part? Apart from, of course, being a subset, not necessarily a subset, but a neighbor of the actual MMS program. So
Mhm.
what is the exposure like over there?
So when it comes to exposure, I mean, for any MBA program, it is up to the student how he or she is able to get the best out of the program, right? So when it comes to exposure, if you're able to work in a lot of organizations, so if you're doing summer internship, so summer is like the mandatory thing that every student has to go through their 2 year journey. But along with that, are they participating in are they, also working with the organization's part-time life projects? Are they taking that up? Are they working on summer projects? Are they participating in competitions? Are they, taking up all those initiatives? So there are a lot of committees. Every MBA colleges has all those CSR committee. There is media committee, PR committee, placement committee. If someone is interested in entrepreneurship, then we have a cell for that. So how interested or how engaged are you in those activities, because those are the areas from where you can get exposure. So if you're working in, let's say, placement committee, of course, the most the hyped one,
Rever, yeah.
whatever, I mean, different words, but I think you get to work with so many corporates. You get to understand what's happening in the industry. You try to understand as an HR professional. You try to you get to understand what are they looking forward, what are they looking for in a employee, what is the process like. You get to make a lot of networks that ways, and also when you're part of those competitions, right? So in those competitions, there's case competitions and all those HR competitions. What happens is usually when you come to a college like JB, you feel that you have achieved a lot in life and you think that, oh, I'm in the top 20. But you're not competing just with those 20. You're competing with the world, right? You're competing with the best minds out there. So in those case competitions, you're able to put your case and go on face. I mean, have a competition with someone from another top tier B school. So that is the kind of exposure that is very important, because you understand what's happening there. What are the kind of PPTs they're making? How are they doing the research? Those are the things I think were very useful for me. And those are the things that really helped me.
But then exposure is also a voluntary affair. The
Yes, yes,
people who voluntarily
absolutely.
sign up for those activities are the ones who
Hmm.
get it.
Yes.
And as far as access is pertaining to the number of events, there is also another criteria that certain case competitions are open only to top 30 B schools, 20 B schools. So
Mhm.
by default, you guys must be on the list of most of them.
Yes, yes. 95% of them, yes, we are.
Wow, wow.
Hmm.
And apart from that, when I talk of the placements, perhaps one of the most revered aspects of all the MBA programs across the entire country. When I was having an episode, a conversation with Siddesh Kote the last time I had somebody from
Hmm.
JBIMS on the podcast,
Yes,
he
yes.
was mentioning that the roles are not just limited to HR, that the roles are far more wider and they're also from what do you call ambits like marketing. So is that true?
Yeah, that's true. Because in a lot of case we have the umbrella placement. So as you said, we have another program called MMS, under which people specialize in finance, marketing, supply chain. So sometimes those roles also come for us. I mean, of course, our placement committee also brings these roles, and the organizations are open to hiring students from our program for these roles, because, as I said, in the first year they get to learn marketing, finance, taxation, accounts, and all of that. So, yeah, that is how that works.
but having that edge of actually getting to be abreast with the relevant business concepts in your first year itself, that actually aids you in landing placements of diverse ambits as well.
Yeah, yeah.
That is one thing that you're mentioning.
To give you my own example, when I did my HR, special in MHRD, the placement that I got through campus was a product manager role. It was in an IT organization, a big IT firm, and the product that they were developing was a L&D tool, learning and development tool, and that is they had hired me for that role. So, I mean, product management is like one of the most sought after roles for someone from another course, right?
Technical guys.
Yeah,
Yep.
for technical guys, yeah. And I have not done engineering. I have not done any of those. I don't have that educational background, but I was able to get that because of this course and because of my experience before my masters. So yeah, that possibility is always there to get to get a placement which is not traditionally a HR role.
Wow, wow. Even another USP for all the people who are planning on getting into JBIMS for HR programs, you will be eligible at least to sit for the interviews of companies from different ambits. This
Yeah,
is not very much a
absolutely.
case when you talk of the rest of the things. And talking of getting a lot of guidance and advice to all the people who are watching this episode, Charudutt also happens to run a small initiative called Dream Unlimited. It's not a small initiative, mind you. It's a very
The
good
small.
initiative. It's spread across YouTube. He does a lot of sessions on group discussions, interviews, and he goes about talking and engaging with a lot of people on topics which are very much relevant across the fraternity of B schools. So do consider subscribing to his channel as well.
Thank
And
you. Mm.
about JBMS, if there's one thing that really sort of struck me is the fact that you mentioned that if you go into an organization, chances are that you'll at least find one employee from JBMS. When I
Correct.
talk of a fraternity that is spread across the corporate space like JBIMS, that has been spread across the entire country, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm.
So, does it act as a this thing overwhelming weight as well at times when you're engaging in discussions with people?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is that part is always there because whenever you're giving an interview, right, they expect a lot from you when you're working in a corporate and when you say that you have come from from a college institute like JBIMS, they have a lot of expectations from you. They look at you in a certain way. So sometimes it becomes very overwhelming. It becomes like a burden. But I think you need to learn because that is something. That is going to stay there for you like for long. So I think you need to from the MBA days, you need to start working hard. You should not just get complacent that yes, I've got into a JBMS. That's not the end of the story. That's actually the beginning of your life. Once you get into your masters, start working harder. Start ensuring that your work is uh, very it's absolutely perfect and you have those minute detailing part is there, and you're delivering a JB level work. So that is something I think even I need to work upon, and all the aspirants or everyone who's in the program, I think they should also focus upon.
That stamp of JBIMS is what dictates the kind of and the quality of work that you deliver to a great
Yes,
extent.
yes.
It also
Hmm.
impacts the way people perceive your work too.
Yeah, yeah,
You
absolutely.
subjecting yourself to that standard and building upon your part again, Charuda. With that, we come towards the end of this wonderful discussion that we had on your career as a DEI expert and as a student of JBMS. If you had one advice that you'd give to all the aspirants out there who are about to embark on their MBA journey, on their B school journey, even to people who are planning on embarking on their corporate journey, what would your advice look like?
Okay, before I come to that, I'm not a DI expert yet. I'm just someone who has just started my career in DI space. So I'm someone who's learning, growing. But if someone who wants to get into MBA and what are the advice, I think uh, the most important thing would be participate in as many things as possible because there's so much that you get to learn, right? If there is a case competition, go for it. If there is some research thing that's going in your college, apply for it. Do the research work. Whatever your professors are saying, trust me, when you are studying, you may think, okay, this professor is not making sense, or I don't think this is going to add value. But just whatever they're saying, just do it for the next 2 years because they are all very qualified. They're there for a reason. So follow them, right? It's not going to harm you in any way. So I would say that participate in as many things as possible. Of course, listen to your professors, make that network, try to mingle with as many people as possible, not just in your course or your program, but try to connect with as many people as possible, because MBA is all about networking, trying to understand people, how you're able to, communicate with them. That is something. Yeah. And for rest of the things, you can follow our channel to understand more MBA journey.
Wow. Wow. That was one effective way of positioning your endeavor out there. And
Yeah.
with that, we come towards the end. We've been meaning to record this for the past 3 months. Even recently, we had to reschedule. We had recorded an initial draft and we had to retake this entirely because my laptop had strict compliance issues. But regardless, finally, we've come towards the end. And we look forward to being pretty active in the MBA space from here on as well and collaborating on further projects. Of course, अगर हमारे रिकॉर्डिंग को शनि ना लग जाए बॉस ऑफ चारुदत्त
Yes, yes, definitely. I mean, I've been watching all your videos and they have been very interesting, very insightful. All your past speakers, they have done a great job. And of course, you have been doing a good job. So kudos to you.
they've been doing a
Kudos
great
to
job. I've been doing a good job. See the difference. See
I mean, you have been doing an excellent job. Okay. And it's always great to
that is
connect with
exactly
you.
what people will tell about you from here on.
Uh, I don't know, but yeah, you have been doing great, and I was looking forward to this. So yeah, thanks a lot, and I hope I was helpful to all your to the audience out there.
Likewise, likewise. Thank you for joining me, Charuda.